What's up guys, how you doing today? Welcome back to this YouTube channel. It's your guy Igor here, coming up with you live with another video. Today I want to talk to you more about life in Canada and about debt. Of course, lots of people on this channel, if you're reading comments, so that's why I encourage you to comment and also read other people's comments, you would realize that lots of people are talking about debt in Canada, and it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem for number one, your freedom, your happiness, and the life security, stability, whatever you might call it. It's your freedom. The less debt you have, the more free you are, but it's difficult to be without it. Now let's talk about a little bit about it in this video, guys. I'm gonna get off the ground. I still have to go back to the office. I cannot be just laying down here like that, or can I, guys? I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about debt. Now this is how those guys in bank are dressed up, and they have about the same belly. By the way, the diet is still going. If you haven't noticed, my belly is going down. I'll update you a little bit later in another video. So this is how the guys look like. They would offer you some money once you go into the bank. Now, car dealership, financial analysts, financial planners, all of those people think about one thing. They don't think about you or me. They think about commission. Does not matter how you're going to deal with yourself, with your expenses, with your life, once you get the loan. So their goal is to give you the loan. And now they have an enemy. There is one enemy, guys, and that enemy is called government, okay? So the government in Canada constantly changes the regulation, which banks take into advantage, and they kind of behave as if their own thing, but no. Banks don't like it, okay, guys? Canadian government is trying to make the banks, make it harder to get a loan, and they're doing it for us, guys. They're doing it for you and me, so we cannot get enough money to, you know, get ourselves into a position where we cannot pay it off. And it is a good thing. Now let's talk a little bit about it, because it's really important for you guys to know it. It's really important, because this is, if you're planning to be living in Canada, you're already living in here, this is something you have to know. Whoo, got my backpack, headphones are still there. And last video, I lost my headphones. The one where I was running around, I came back, I was like, where's my headphones? It's missing, gotta buy another one. Debt is coming, guys. Let's talk a little bit about it. I'm just trying to get a better grip on the selfie stick here. Debt is a huge thing in Canada. Lots of people get into it. So, for example, yesterday, myself, I went to TD Bank to see a financial advisor, which I think she had really bad customer service skills. She behaved as if she's a school principal and I'm someone there, you know, like on suspension or whatever. So I didn't like that. But she did a good thing, a little bit, kind of, because she said that you shouldn't take more loans right now. I want to explain why, guys. It's simple. The more debt you get, the more money you have to pay. There is an expression in Canada, you are mortgage or house poor. I think it's house poor. Basically, you buy a house that you can barely afford. I mean, if you buy that house, you can't afford anything else. And it means that it doesn't matter how much money you're making, whatever extra you get that you would otherwise spend for yourself, for the enjoyment of life, for vacation, you are giving it off for the mortgage, for the payments. So right now, guys, the interest rates are a little bit higher than they were 2 years ago. 2 years back, they were about 2.2, 2.6 in that range. Right now it's at 3.4, 3.8, something like that, depending on the band, depending on the institution and whatever calculations they do. I'll tell you a secret, those guys are making commission, so the higher interest rate they'll give you, probably the higher they are going to keep for themselves, okay? Because there is like a margin that they have to make money. Those guys get lots of money. Basically what happens is this: they did a stress test here in Canada. What it is government made banks check by using the stress test. What it is you get, for example, whatever rate they give you, 3%, let's say, and then bank has to check if you're okay to pay 2.5%, I believe, more than that. I'm not sure, I'm not a financial analyst, I'm not a mortgage broker as of now. I might do that, because I have no idea. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, so we'll see. But they're going to see if you are able to pay off about 5.5%, 2.5% more, and then they're going to say, yeah, you can afford it. So what they do, they check on your car loan. So if you have any of those expensive fancy cars with big rates, now it's going to be a little bit loud, I'm walking next to the road. They're going to see all your loans, credit cards, car loans, whatever you own. Then they're going to see it, and they're going to say, okay, this is how much money you spend for those expenses to pay off that debt, and this is how much the interest rate is going to be, and the mortgage is going to be, the principal payments and the interest rates. And then they're saying, okay, you can afford up to this amount, or you cannot afford up to this amount. And now I would say that in Calgary you can buy houses anywhere $300,000 to $2 million houses, depending on the locations. If you buy apartments, condos, you can get something for $200,000. If it's a attached duplex house, it's probably closer to $200,000, and there are duplexes that are $600,000, $700,000, again depending on the location, depending on the property, and lots of other things. We are not going to get touched on this in this video, but the problem here is this: what you don't know, if you are just ordinary person like myself, unfortunately for me, I did masters in economics, financial management, so I know a little bit of, I know where I'm getting screwed up. I know a little bit about money and a little bit about mortgage. What happens once you get this percentage, doesn't matter what you get, and they would give it to you, for example, for 25 years. In the course of paying that money for your mortgage, you are more likely, most likely, if you do the calculations over those years, how much you're going to be paying, the interest rate versus the principal amount, you are basically buying another house for the bank. Okay, so the simple calculation is this: if you take a mortgage and you pay it off in 25 years without paying it off earlier, you are buying another house for the bank. Now, you don't have to do that if you are able to pay, like just go and buy a house for cash, unless you are having a good job and lots of money. Here you go, easy. And if you're like me, an immigrant in this country who came here, spent all the money for the immigration, got a job, and you just don't want to pay rent because rent is just like paying to someone else without building any asset, which kind of sucks, you would eventually end up with the mortgage, with the debt that you have to pay off. So my mission of this video, guys, is to educate you a little bit on my knowledge. And the thing is, don't go for the most expensive houses, don't go for the biggest amount you are pre-approved for, you know, because once you get it, right now, for example, if you're working, your wife is working, you're making an X amount, because two of you are working, it's X2, anyone loses a job, it becomes X1, and now you start to realize that, oh, all of a sudden mortgage becomes a burden. All the income from one person can go down for the mortgage payments, and that's it, you don't save anything else. So guys, in this video I'm just encouraging you to have less debt in Canada, because lots of people, they would buy, let's find some expensive car, Mercedes there, see, there is a Mercedes. You go and you can go with a simple job and buy Mercedes, okay? The bank is going to give you money in Canada. Your crappy job can afford you a Mercedes, okay? But the payments go up. Now, for example, if you have a house, you go buy a Mercedes, it adds up if the bank approves you, and in the end, bank sees that you have you have some room for money there, they would give it to you, and then they would expect. Now, what happens if you don't pay it? There are penalties, and the bank can come after your Mercedes and can come after your house. Now, because of that, I'm just going to check the time so I'm not late for my work. Because of that, guys, you can get yourself into a whole world of trouble, insecurity and mental stress. What I mean is this: now when you know how much you're paying in Canada, that's how lots of immigrants get screwed up, that's how lots of Canadian-born people get screwed up as well. You start to work to pay off your debt. You start living paycheck to paycheck. Whatever you made is whatever you're paying to the bank. And when this happens, you start to realize that if you don't have enough savings and you happen to lose your job layoff, whatever might happen, long-term disability, you never know, it's your life, anything can happen. Then the problem begins, because you start to be afraid that if you are not able to pay off, there's some guy with a wheel, he's measuring the territory, I believe. You start to worry that if you lose your job, you are done. You can lose the house, you can lose the car. Even if you paid off most of it, you can still lose it. And who needs that kind of thing? And then you start getting children. So what happens to the majority of Canadians here? People complain. New immigrants too, for years they complain. Some people call it slavery, the debt. So make sure you don't get into that position. Be smart, guys. Don't take all the money that are given to you, because it's most likely a bait. Bank is going to make higher interest, and you're going to get that insecurity. You're going to be living in this kind of Canadian dream where you don't have any money. Even you're making a lot, you still don't have anything, because it goes toward payoffs of your debt. And it's really easy to get yourself into, especially from people who are coming from other countries that are less developed. We love to show off. How many of you guys love to show off? I personally do. You know, guys, I would drive the Jaguar. I wouldn't buy a Lamborghini, it's too expensive. I would definitely buy a Jaguar. I would drive that car and show off. And you know, 100%, don't buy a Jaguar, guys. Don't buy those expensive things. Buy what you can afford. Better buy it for your own money. You can go to a dealership, they're going to say, like they screwed me up with my Subaru. So what happened there? I purchased it. It was like $14,000. I negotiated, they lowered it down, it went to $12,000. I got it for $12,000. Then they increased it to $12,500 because they put some basically processing fee, and then they put an interest for 5 years. Then I put the amount, and they calculate the interest, and then it went to $16,000. Now, how the hell did I negotiate a $14,000 car and ended up buying for $16,000? That's the question for the institution who gave me that loan that I want to ask sometimes. But it's simple calculation, it's business. Banks have to make money on giving you money. First person who is giving you a loan gets the commission. The salesperson who sells you a car gets the commission. Everyone has to make money. It's a fair business, and I cannot argue with that. That's how the world operates. But what it is for us is insecurity, debt, hustle, and then you start working 2 jobs to be able to afford more life, and you start working 2.5 jobs, you start side hustling. If something happens to your spouse who used to work, then she all of a sudden gets on maternity leave, she gets government employment insurance, which is definitely not enough, and then that's when you start to get drowned in work. And instead of actually living in this beautiful country and enjoying your life, you start to work to pay off your debt, which is taken forever, because you take a loan for 5 years for a car, another car 5 years, and if you are crazy enough to buy a Mercedes that you definitely can't afford, it can even stretch, and house is 25 years. Most important, guys, don't buy the most expensive house, because if you do that, you better get a good job, you better have a good income, growing more and more, increase your income sources. So there, I have 2 suggestions for you guys. Number 1, do not fall for this trap, because in Canada you can get yourself locked into a contract, starting with your cell phone operator, starting with your car, mortgage, and some utility companies, lots of stuff where you can get lots of things that look free, and you're going to be paying off. And then what happens is people start to complain, saying, oh, Canada is not a good country, you work here, you work your butt off day and night, and you don't have any money. And that's exactly why that happens. So guys, this video is about debt, and I just want to help the immigrants, because if you don't have enough like debt, if you take, instead of being pre-approved for $600,000 house, you go and you buy a maximum $350,000 house or something like that, then you're going to be okay. All right, if you're pre-approved for $1 million house, I don't suggest you go and buy $1 million house. Buy a little bit cheaper what you cannot that you can afford, because if you cannot afford it and your job is not secure, all of a sudden you lose a job, you're screwed. The house goes away, your credit history goes to hell, and the enjoyment of life goes away. So this video is dedicated for enjoying your life and lowering down your debt, guys. Make sure you don't take the maximum amount of debt, and also make sure you side hustle to pay off your current debt. That's why I'm running a side company for an extra income. I'm working full-time at my job, and I'm also thinking about different other business opportunities, partnerships, and other things, because I want to get rid of the debt, guys. And I wish you the same, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you comment, because I want to know your comments. If you face the same situation that I faced here in Canada, if you think that it's a bad thing to take more mortgages, or if you want to, or you disagree with me and you think it's better to take more and more money so you can build your assets faster, and it would prevent you from spending more money on things that are unwanted for you, for example vacations or entertainment. You can have more money, but you can spend more. Some people are just good in paying off debts instead of saving up. So make sure you comment on that, and of course subscribe to this channel if you're new, guys, and we will see you next video. Have a good one, guys.